Text number 43. Yo dustaya jandaras sutan Suredrajam Ridhi Sprishaha Jahau Yuvaiva Malava Uttama Shokalalasa Yodushtya Chandara Sutan Suredrajam Ridhi Sprishaha Jahau Yuvaiva Malava Uttama Shokalalasa
Yodusya Jandara Sutan Suredrajam Ridhi Sprishaha
Yodushtya Jandara Sutan Sukrit Rajam Hridi Sprisha Jahau Yavaiva Malavat shloka lalasa.
Uttama shloka lalasa. Yodhishthana Sultan Sukriyajam Krišna Jahoyavaiva Malavat Uttama shloka lalasa.
The same Jat Bharat, who was formerly Maharaj Bharat, the son of Maharaj Rishabdev, Dusyajan, very difficult to give up. Dara Sutan, the wife and children, were the most opulent family men of life. Surit, friends and well-wishers. Rajam, a kingdom that extended all over the world. Release Prisha, that which is situated within the core of one's heart. How he gave up. Yuva Eva, even as a young man. Malavat, like stool. Uttama shloka lalasa, who was so fond of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Uttama Shloka. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. While in the prime of life, the great Maharaj Bharat gave up everything because he was fond of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka. He gave up his beautiful wife, nice children, great friends, and an enormous empire. Although these things were very difficult to give up, Maharaj Bharat was so exalted that he gave them up, just like one gives up stool after evacuating. Such was the greatness of His Majesty. So please repeat, while in the prime of life, the great Maharaj Bharat gave up everything because he was fond of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uttama Shloka. He gave up his beautiful wife, nice children, great friends, and an enormous empire. Although these things were very difficult to give up, Maharaj Bharata was so exalted that he gave them up, just as one gives up stool after evacuating. Such was the greatness of His Majesty. Purport. The name of God is Krišna because He is so attractive that the pure devotee can give up everything within this mature world on His behalf. Maharaj Bharata was an ideal king, instructor, and emperor of the world. He possessed all the opulences of the mature world. But Krišna is so attractive that he attracted Maharaj Bharata from all his mature possessions. Yet somehow or another the king became affectionate of a little deer, and falling from his position, had to accept the body of a deer in his next life. Due to Krishna's great mercy upon him, he could not forget his position, and he could understand how he had fallen. Therefore, in the next life, as Jada Bharata, Maharaj Bharata was careful not to spoil his energy, and therefore he presented himself as a deaf and dumb person. In this way he can concentrate on his devotional service. We have to learn from the great King Bharata how to become cautious in cultivating Krishna consciousness. A little inattention will retard our devotional service for the long time being. Yet any service rendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is never lost. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato payat. Bhagavad Gita 2:40. A little devotional service rendered sincerely is a permanent asset. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17, Tyatva sadharmam charnam bhujam harer bhajan pakvo tapatito yadi yatra kwa bhavadram abudamushakim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. Somehow or another, if one is attracted to Krishna, whatever he does in devotional service is a permanent asset. Even if one falls down due to immaturity or bad association, his devotional assets are never lost. There are many examples of this. Ajamil, Maharaj Bharata, and many others. This Krishna consciousness movement is giving everyone a chance to engage in devotional service, at least for some time. A little service will give one an impetus to advance and thus make one's life successful. In this verse, the Lord is described as Uttama Shloka. Uttama means the best, and Shloka means reputation. Lord Krishna is full of 6 opulences, one of which is reputation. Aishvaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashasha striyaha. Krishna's reputation is still expanding. We are spreading the glories of Krishna by pushing forward this Krishna consciousness movement. Krishna's reputation 5,000 years after the Battle of Kurukshetra is still expanding throughout the world. Every important individual within this world must have heard of Krishna, especially at the present moment, due to the Krishna consciousness movement. Even people who do not like us and want to suppress the movement are also somehow or another chanting Hare Krishna. They say the Hare Krishna people should be chastised. Such foolish people do not realize the true value of this movement, but the mere fact that they want to criticize us gives them a chance to chant Hare Krishna, and this is its success. Yo dusyaya, so the verse again. Yo dusyajan dara sutan Suridrajam Ridisrisha Yahau Yuvaiva Malavad Uttama Shlokalalasaha. While in the prime of life, the great Maharaj Bharata gave up everything because he was fond of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka. He gave up his beautiful wife, nice children, great friends, and enormous empire. Although these things were very difficult to give up, Bharata was so exalted that he gave them up just like one gives up school after evacuating. Such was the greatness of His Majesty. Namo Vishnu Viraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gaur Vani Pracharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Siddharne. And this verse probably mentions in the purport that devotional assets are permanent. And Prabhupada also mentioned it's not expected that everyone who engages themselves in devotional service will reach perfection in one lifetime. As we can see, many people take up the process for some time, and then they leave. In the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada mentions that often people come to the Hare Krishna movement with some other motive, especially the motive of economic development. And after some time, they learn how to distribute paintings or candles or some other type of paraphernalia. It used to be spiritual sky incense. I don't think that's, devotees don't do that anymore, but it used to be spiritual sky incense. Then they think, now I've learned the perfection of life. Now I've gotten some enlightenment in the Hare Krishna movement. I'm a vegetarian. I'll maintain that vow as much as possible. But now that I know how I can maintain myself, why should I give everything to the temple? I should keep something for myself. And I should give a little bit to the temple. Generally speaking, the devotees, we heard the argument, let me first make $1 million, and then I'll join the Hare Krishna movement. Let me go out, economically develop, I'll go back to school, get a good job, economically develop, and then I can support the Hare Krishna movement. And that usually lasts, then the devotee disappears, and that's it. Material nature captures the soul, as if we can make our plans. We don't need Krishna for now. We don't need the association of devotees for now. But I'll become very prominent, influential, wealthy, etc. And then I'll benedict the Hare Krishna movement, all my assets. And then everything, the Hare Krishna movement will be able to advance. Prabhupada, when he was informed, spiritual sky incense began around 1968. And it was spiritual sky that, I don't know if it was called spiritual sky, it was in 2061 2nd Avenue, Prahladananda Prabhu and Gargamuni Prabhu, they started up this little business selling incense. Actually, it wasn't the incense and the sticks, it was what was this Arabic incense. And they sold these stands and the incense. You put the charcoal, you burn the charcoal, and then you put the incense, this kind of gum incense, on top of the charcoal, and it would burn. And that's what we used in the temple for incense. One time, Prahladananda and myself, we went to New York to buy, we were in New York, and we went to buy some incense, because all the temples used it. And I was in Buffalo with Prahladananda. And so we went there, and Gargamuni was showing us the incense stand. And I said, Prahladananda, because he was the treasurer, I said, don't buy it, it looks pretty fragile. And Gargamuni grabbed me, took me out. He said, look, Prabhupada gave us the service, you know, for you to tell us what. That was the sweet dealings we used to have. Good old days. They said, Bertha, don't buy it. It was terrible. Anyhow, Bertha bought it. And bought the incense. We came back to Buffalo. We put the incense burner down on the altar. We didn't really have an altar back then. We had a table. The deities, which I had no idea who the deities were. Till Prabhupada came and told me who the deities were. There was these three strange figures on this. He put it on a bookshelf in the temple. It was really unusual. We put the incense burner down, put the charcoal, lit the charcoal, put the incense burner, put the incense on the top of the charcoal. The incense burned, and the burner burned too. Everything burned. That was the beginning of spiritual sky. It all went up in smoke. And then later on, Prabhupada, he was the most, became $1 million business, which at that time was $1 million business was a big business, fairly big business. And they wanted to expand spiritual sky, and Prabhupada said, no, we're not interested in expanding spiritual sky. We want to expand book distribution. But they did it anyhow. Devotees sometimes are overly inspired. And they expanded it to a bigger business, and Prabhupada didn't say anything. He actually, when they criticized the business, Prabhupada said, well, how can you criticize a business which is bringing more than $1 million to Krishna every year? So, we can start something, as it says here, and we may not finish it, but still we get devotional assets from doing it. So many devotees, they become attracted to expanding like spiritual sky, and it was actually a fairly good business, but then there became some difficulties. But because any devotee who participated and tried to expand the Hare Krishna movement in that way, it was a permanent asset. The money wasn't permanent. Spiritual sky wasn't permanent. The incense wasn't permanent. The burners weren't permanent. But the endeavor to serve Krishna in that way was permanent. When we go on book distribution and we give someone a book, sometimes the devotees are concerned. We've distributed so many books, and yet people are not flocking into the Hare Krishna movement's temples. So, what is the sense of distributing books? As if the material nature is so easy to overcome. We just go out there and give someone a book, they buy the book, and then like when the airplane comes down, oh, look at that, another one back. Maybe someone should sell me a book. Sometimes devotees doubt that we're spending so much time distributing these books and we're not seeing any results. But actually, every time a book is distributed, that is the result. We're supposed to understand how every activity in devotional service is absolute. We don't know what the ultimate trajectory of the path that we put someone on when they take a book, or they hear the holy name, or they take some prasad, because it may take some time. Of course, we have to learn patience also. Our general understanding is that things should happen fairly quickly, otherwise they're not really happening in our estimation. The movement should actually move. Sometimes it looks like it's not really moving. But our estimation of time is rather relative. The gopis danced with Krishna for one night, and they thought it was rather a short night, because Krishna had promised the gopis when he had taken their clothes away, and they became his dear servants, they surrendered to him. He promised that he would be their husband and dance with them one night. So indeed they danced with him one night of Brahma, which is 4,300,000,000 years. So that would seem to us, if you said, well, the dance is not to start, it's going to last for 4,300,000,000 years, you think, well, I hope I have an extra pair of shoes. It's going to be a long dance. Is there going to be any prasadam served at some time? But for the gopis it went very, very quickly, because time is very, very relative. When Kukumi and his daughter Revati went to visit Lord Brahma in Brahmaloka to find a good husband for Revati, then when they got to Brahmaloka, Lord Brahma was listening to a concert given by the Gandharvas. And he said, just wait a few minutes, and then afterwards you can tell me what you want. after a few minutes went by in Brahma's time, he said, what would you like? He said, I'd like to find a good husband for my daughter, Revati. But Brahma started to laugh and said, well, you've been only here for a few minutes. But those few minutes in your time they were kalpas. Kalpa means 4,300,000 years, a whole cycle of yugas. Kalpas have gone by, and everyone that your whole kingdom has disappeared, all your relatives have disappeared, anyone who's ever heard of you disappeared. The only thing left is you and your daughter. But if you immediately go back to where you came from, to this earth planet, that right now, Lord Balaram has advented himself, and your daughter is his eternal consort. So if you go there right now, we'll give you a special airplane to get there, because otherwise by the time you get back there, he's already finished his pastimes too. Then she can marry him. She's a suitable consort for Lord Balaram. So just a few minutes went by in Brahma's time. 1 second in Brahma's time is 96,000 of our years. Brahma sneezes, and that's hundreds and thousands of our years. So, and Brahma lives for one exhalation of Mahavishnu is 311 trillion, not billion, mere trillion, 440 billion years, just throw in an extra 40 billion years, is his lifetime. And that's only the exhalation of Mahavishnu. What to speak in a day of Mahavishnu? How much time goes by when Mahavishnu has lunch? How many Brahmas come and go? So our idea of time is rather relative. But if someone can actually go in the right direction towards Krishna, then eventually it's expected that they'll actually become Krishna conscious. It may not happen immediately. And here in the case of Bharat Maharaj, which is given for two, as an example, as Prabhupada says, for a number of reasons. One is to show we have to be careful. First, we have to understand how exalted Bharat Maharaj was. Generally speaking, if we have a nice pen, say a very special pen, even a silver pen or a gold pen, if we lose it, we become very disturbed. We look at everyone, maybe they took it, become very disturbed. We look around some time looking for that pen because it was a valuable pen. What to speak if we lost our car? What would people do if they lost their car? Or if they lost their wife, or their husband, or their children, or their pet parakeet? What would they do? They feel very disturbed. But Bharat Maharaj, he was the emperor of the entire world, which might have been at that time the whole Bharatvarsha, which is much more extensive than we can conceive of. And at the same time, he had an attractive wife, nice children. He was the emperor, and he gave it up. He didn't drag it on till the end of life, wrestling with the Yamadutas. You can't take me away. I'm too young to die. And he gave it up as something insignificant. Just like the 6 Goswamis, Srinivasacharya prays, Tyakva Tornam Ashesha Mandalapati Prenim Sadatu Chava Putva Dina Gunesha Ko Karunaya Gopi Nakanta Krito Gopi Bhavara Samrita Dilahari Kolo Namo Namo Pande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopala Go. Or as Prabhupada writes in the Krišna book, I will practice my memorization of the Krišna book. He gopis of Vrindavan were so attached to Krishna that they were not satisfied simply with the rasa dance at night. They wanted to associate with him and enjoy his company during the daytime also. When Krishna went to the forest with his cowherd boys and the cows, the gopis could not physically take part, their hearts went with him. And because their hearts went, they were able to enjoy his company through strong feelings of separation. To acquire this strong feeling of separation is the teaching of the Lord Chaitanya and his direct succession to Goswamis. When we were not in physical contact with Krishna, we could also associate with him through strong feelings of separation. Krishna's name, form, quality, and pastimes are all identical with him. There are 9 different kinds of devotional service, and devotional service in feelings of separation elevates the devotee to the highest devotional perfection, to the level of the gopis. As stated in the prayers of Srinivasacharya to the 6 Goswamis, they gave up their material opulence and princely status of life and went to Vrindavan, where they lived like ordinary mendicants, begging from door to door. But they were so much enriched with the gopis' feelings of separation that they enjoyed transcendental pleasure at every moment. Similarly, when Lord Chaitanya was at Jagannath Puri, he was in the role of Radharani, feeling the separation of Krishna. Those who are in the disciple succession, the Madhvas, Gaudiya Sampradaya, should always feel separation from Krishna, worship his transcendental form, discuss his transcendental teachings, his entourage. In this way, the spiritual master should elevate the devotees to the highest devotional perfection, feeling constant separation from Krishna while chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is the perfection of devotional service. So, such exalted personalities as the 6 Goswamis, they gave up everything and went to the Vrindavan, which at that time was a forest. There was no Loy Bazaar, believe it or not. You couldn't get a limp anywhere, no matter how many rupees you had. You couldn't get anything. There was no rickshaws. There were no motorcycle rickshaws. There probably weren't even that many. There were a lot of monkeys. The monkeys were quite happy back then. But they were there and they were begging from door to door, and when they begged from door to door, they didn't get, sabdi, rice and dal. They get a dry roti. Dry roti meant that people back there, they didn't have kitchens. Knock on the door, can I get a little prasad? Sure, come in, we're just finished cooking. There was no cooking. They just get some dough, they grow a little wheat, smash up the grains, put a little water on it, make some kind of dough, make a little ball and throw it into the fire. That was the cooking. And you get a half-burned roti. And that was what you got to eat. But they went door to door and they begged for these things. It wasn't the rice, dal, chapatis, and pakoras and samosas they were getting when they were ministers. But they were happy. They were satisfied. Prabhupada points out, C.R. Das. C.R. Das was a very prominent barrister in India during Gandhi's time. And it was making 50,000 rupees a month, because 50,000 rupees a month, you just about buy a Lincoln nowadays with 50,000 rupees. But back then it was 100 times or 1,000 times what it is now. He was fabulously wealthy. But because he had become attracted to Gandhi's movement, at that time they had non-cooperation with the British. So everyone who was a lawyer or working for the British had to give up their occupation if you wanted to join Gandhi's movement. So C.R. Das, he said, no, let me just give my money and keep my business, keep my occupation. But Gandhi said, no, you must give up your occupation, non-cooperation with the British, join our movement, and we'll give you some salary. So they gave him a salary, 100 rupees a month. But it was used to 100 rupees a month, was not bad back then. But he was used to 50,000 rupees a month. So Prabhupada said after 1 year he became so depressed, he died. Because he just couldn't tolerate the reduction in his standard of living. But the six Goswamis had a fabulous standard of living. Rupa Goswami had a boat full of gold coins. So he was fabulously wealthy. And they gave it up, they went to Vrindavan, and all they had was loincloths. There were no nice silk dhotis you get at Lloyd's Bazaar, and you had your blanket, whatever else. They were living like ordinary mendicants. But they were so much enriched with the gopis' feelings of separation that they enjoyed transcendental pleasure at every moment. So that's our goal, to become enriched with the sentiments of the gopis. Of course, not that we go around and we start saying, oh, Krishna. Come to Mangalarti, oh, Krishna. No, that would be imitation. Those feelings will develop when our Siddha Sarup, when we attain Sarup Siddhi, after we come to the Prema Bhakti platform, which means we have to go through the regulated devotional service, sadhana bhakti, and then we come to the spontaneous platform of devotional service, beginning at Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and then Prema, and then progressively through Prema, Sneha, Mana, Raga, Anuraga, Bhava, Mahabhava. Then these feelings of the gopis will be awakened. And then the taste, the happiness is so great because the pleasure is so unlimited that everything else seems tuchava, seems insignificant in comparison. But before one comes to that platform, there may be some distraction for some time. Although the devotees generally come out of distress, the Hare Krishna movement, or for some other reason, but often they forget after some time how much distress they were actually experiencing. And after they become purified by the process of devotional service, they again think that they can enjoy in the material world in some way. And then they go back only to find themselves in another distressed position, or poverty-stricken position, or in ignorance, whatever else. And then they come back after some time to devotional service. So the example of Bharat Maharaj is given that we should not become lax. Not that we think, I've obtained such an exalted position in devotional service, I've been in the Hare Krishna movement for already 2 years, I'm ready to go back into the material world and I won't get affected by it. Now I can actually go back and get my proper education, make my $1 million, and then come back and save the Hare Krishna movement. That one should be cautious that the living entity's position is marginal, and at any moment, as a matter of fact, if we examine our lives, in the beginning stage of Bhajana Kriya, we have Utsahamai, which means we become puffed up with enthusiasm. I'm so exalted, I'm so enthusiastic. Look at me, I dance during the kirtan. Look at those other devotees, those old, has-me-nots. Is that what it's called, has-me-nots? That they're finished, they've lost all their enthusiasm, they've dried up. But I'm enthusiastic, I'll save the world, and if I become powerful enough, I'll even save these old, worn-out devotees. That's called Utsahamai. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm just amazed at my own enthusiasm. But next comes Ganatarala. Ganatarala means after some time we begin to realize that I'm up like a bird reaching the sky, and the next moment I'm crashing to the ground like a balloon that's just popped. So we begin to realize I'm not so as exalted as I thought I was. I'm still exalted, there's no doubt about that. but I'm just a little less exalted than I imagine myself, that people understand me to be. So that's good to understand that we're not as steady as we think we are. So this is all, and then it comes to Vishaya, Sangara, Vyuta, Vikalpa, different stages. We think we become attached, or we want to renounce things, but the more we think about renouncing them, then the more we become attached to them. I'm going to renounce everything, move to Vrindavan, make my life successful, chant Hare Krishna, give up material life. But if I do that, then I'm going to have to go out and collect to get to Vrindavan. It's so expensive nowadays. Maybe I should get a wife and she can collect and we can both go. But if I get a wife, then there'll have to be children, we'll have to collect so much money to get Vrindavan. Maybe I should go by myself and see if I can get a wife there. And she could collect for me there. But if I get a wife there, then then I'll have to come back here because I don't, etc. So one just speculates, and the more one speculates, the more the mind becomes agitated. So one thinks, let me just renounce. I'm not going to eat anything on Ekadasi, I'm going to fast, I'll observe Niljala Ekadasi. Niljala means no water. So I vow to follow Niljala Ekadasi for the rest of my life. Which means on Ekadasi I'll have a big feast 3 times a day, but I won't take a drop of water. Then I can tell everyone I'm following Niljala Ekadasi. Wow, you're so exalted. You have been following me for years. No problem for me to follow Niljala Ekadasi. So one is following Niljala Ekadasi, and in every moment one is thinking, oh my God, I'm starving to death. It's been I have still 23 hours left before I can eat. I don't know if I'm going to survive. Look at all these other sinful devotees. They're actually eating prasadam on Ekadasi. You rascals! One is thinking, you're all going to see Yamaraj. I'm going back to Vaikuntha because I'm following strictly Niljala Ekadasi. And it's been another 15 minutes that's gone by. So therefore, after some time, finally after the torture of following a whole day of Niljala Ekadasi, it's time to break Ekadasi. Sharira, we don't have time. Just eat. So thereafter some time, then there's Niyama Akshama, which means one makes a vow, I'm going to control my mind and senses, chant a certain time every day, go to sleep at a certain time, chant so many rounds a day. One makes so many vows, but one finds it's very difficult to keep them all. Until finally one reaches the glorious stage called Taranga Rangini. One finally becomes steady in his devotional service, gets up more or less at the same time every day, tends the program, chants the number of rounds prescribed every day, and one is the hero. I made it, I'm pure. Everyone, here's my foot, you can touch it. It's fine. But this is seemingly, Prabhupada said, in the absence of a big tree, a castor bush is very big. So this is not perfection of devotional service. One still has to go through an artha and a vritti, especially chant Hare Krishna purely, without offense. Then one can attain the state of nishta, liberation from all material concepts. The desires may still come within the mind, but one is not affected by them anymore. One doesn't at least act according to them. One remains himself steady on the devotional platform. And this is the platform that Prabhupada indicated is really the platform from which one can take the responsibility of accepting disciples. Prabhupada used the word strict follower. Strict follower means there's no more whimpering, there's no more lamentation. one understands that everyone is Krishna's eternal servant and acts towards others as if they were Krishna's eternal servant. This is called Brahma-bhuta platform of Nishna. And this is not even spiritual yet. This is only above the material platform. Of course, we were getting there by executing spiritual activities, but one is not really tasting spiritual life until one really comes to the platform of ruchi. Then everything becomes tasty. But ruchi is just insignificant compared to a sakti. When the ruchi, the taste, becomes so great that the mind can't live without Krishna consciousness. Even for a moment, the mind withdraws itself from Krishna, immediately it comes back spontaneously. And if one expends a sakti unlimitedly, anuraga, or as it says, there is 5 progressive stages of Krishna Smarana, known as remembrance, meditation, concentration, constant concentration, and samadhi. So along that line is a sakti, where one's mind is concentrated on Krishna and ever expanding, entering deeper into Krishna's pastimes. And then one comes to the stage of samadhi. And then after that then was called Sarup Siddhi. So at the stage of Sarup Siddhi, one realizes one's eternal servant relation with Krishna at the stage of bhava. One's feelings towards Krishna are awakened. That's how one knows what one's relation with Krishna is, because one's spontaneous feelings are awakened towards Krishna. Bhava means ecstatic feelings, loving feelings. And bhava is only one ray in the sunlight of prema. So if you multiply bhava millions of times, then you come to the platform of prema, which is the platform where the pure devotional service, where one's relation with Krishna actually begins. And then the different stages of dasya, rasa, and sakya rasa, vatsalya rasa, and go progressively from prema to sneha, to mana, to raga, anuraga, bhava, mahabhava. So if we think, I'm doing pretty well, Maya's not going to touch me, I can afford a little relaxation because I'm practically there already. Then Bharat Maharaj was at the platform of bhava, above even a sakti, where one's mind can't live without Krishna for a moment. And yet, he became attracted to a deer. It was a very beautiful deer. But it wasn't really that beautiful. It wasn't more beautiful than his wife was, I hope. Or his children. His kingdom, he gave that up, but he became attracted to a deer at the stage of bhava. So what to speak of ourselves? What we're going to become attracted to at our particular stage, we're not cautious. So this particular example is used to help us become more cautious in our execution of devotional service, how careful we have to be that we don't become distracted and find ourselves in a very uncomfortable position. But on the other hand, it also mentions that Bharat Maharaj in his next lifetime, although he was a deer, Krishna gave him the benediction because he was so exalted that he could remember his past lifetime, and therefore even as a deer, he came to the Srimad Bhagavatam classes. If you notice, it's not a very common thing. In all my travels around the world, and all the classes I've been to, there's never been a deer who's come. Maybe, I remember giving a class in a park one time. We saw some deer, but they were not very attracted to the class. So it is rare, but still it indicates that when one attains such an exalted position, it doesn't go in vain, And indeed, in the next lifetime after the deer body, Jadbharata became Jadbharat. And he went back to Godhead after that. So, one side, be careful. The other side, devotional service is so exalted and powerful that even a little endeavor, sincere endeavor, will give one permanent advancement in devotional service. And when one takes up, even when one falls down, one will take up devotional service from the point where one is left off. So even if a person only buys one book in this lifetime, when he comes back in the future lifetime, he'll buy 2 books and gradually advance. Then he gets the whole library. So I'll stop there. Any questions, comments? Actually, it's a little late. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. Time goes quickly when you're having fun. So we'll stop there. Thank you very much. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai. Srila Prabhupada.
Let's go.